Welcome to Linden Capital Advisors, where financial freedom is just around the corner. Today we'll be discussing the education and investment planning recommendations from Mark and Debbie Brown. We'll start off by talking about the education recommendations we have for them, and then we'll move into the investment planning recommendations. Our first recommendation for them is in regards to Kaysen's 529 Education Savings Plan. So for him, we recommend funding 50% of this plan. As you might recall, in order to fully fund this plan, they would need $32,998 per year in today's dollars. However, we believe that this will help their cash flows by funding about 50% of this plan, and this was lower on their priorities of their overall retirement planning priorities list. So this still gives them quite a bit of funding that they can contribute to his plan while not covering the full extent of the expenses. We assume the same cost escalation of 6%, and this gives total education funding for Kaysen in 2037 of $153,941. And the funding source for this is Debbie's inherited IRA at current value of $425,732. Our second recommendation is in regards to Noah's 529 Education Savings Plan, and this one is the same as Kaysen's, where we recommend funding 50% of the plan. In the same way that this will help their cash flow with Kaysen's plan, this will also help the Browns' cash flow in retirement. So again, we assumed that they would need about $32,998 per year in today's dollars to fully fund Noah's plan. However, we're just doing about 50%, so that would be $16,500 or so to fund half of those costs. Again, we use the same cost escalation of 6% per year, and then this gives them total education funding of $172,968 in 2039 when Noah begins college. And the funding source is the same. It's Debbie's inherited IRA with a current value of $425,732. And a quick note on that, being an inherited IRA, she will have to withdraw those funds within 10 years. After that point, if this 50% coverage is not fully funded, then the rest would come from their normal cash flows. Moving on now to our investment planning recommendations. One of the things that we want to keep in mind is that interest rates have been rising over the past couple of years, and we want to make sure that the Browns are utilizing their cash in the most effective way possible. So they spend between $8,000 and $9,000 per month on their normal expenditures. So with that in mind, we would recommend keeping liquid about $50,000, or in other words, about 6 months worth of savings in their checking or savings account. However, they don't need to keep much more than about 1 month's worth of expenditures in their checking account, and they earn higher interest in their savings account. For this reason, we recommend transferring $35,000 from their checking account into their savings account, where they can earn a little bit higher interest. And then from their savings account, we recommend transferring $95,000 into their joint brokerage account, where they can invest those funds and earn even higher returns. Our second recommendation for the Browns in terms of their investment planning is to align their current asset allocation with an enhanced income portfolio allocation. And the reason for this is that they have concerns about Social Security benefits moving forward, as well as concerns about market volatility. So we don't want them to take on more risk than they're comfortable with. We also don't want them to give up returns by taking no risk. So with this in mind, we're looking to achieve a balance between growth and income, and this enhanced income portfolio offers them the best of both worlds. So right now they have an asset allocation of about 75% in equities, 17% in fixed income, 2% in alternatives, and about 6% in cash. So since this is misaligned with their actual risk profile, we want to make changes to their investment portfolio in order to get them into portfolio or asset allocation that actually matches where they're comfortable with. So with our second recommendation, what we'll do is make changes to their investment portfolio holdings in order to align their overall portfolio with a strategic asset allocation and that matches their enhanced income profile. And this would mean that we would want about 50% in equities, about 45% in fixed income, and about 5% in cash. So our second recommendation will involve making changes to align their portfolio with their risk profile. Our third recommendation in investment planning for the Browns is to align their current tactical asset allocation with their target tactical asset allocation. And the first thing is we want to make sure that they're properly diversified. And then the next thing is we want to make sure that their exposures to each area of the market are not only adequate but suitable for where we are in the current cycle of the economy. So we recommend having about 35% in large cap exposure, and then having about 5% to mid cap exposure, about 5% to small cap exposure, 5% to international stock exposure, and then about 20% in investment grade bond exposure, 25% in short-term bond exposure, and then the remaining 5% in cash. Our fourth recommendation for the Browns when it comes to their investment planning is to align their investment portfolio with the efficient frontier. We won't be able to get it exactly on the line. However, we'll try to get as close to the line as we possibly can. A couple things that are important to note. One is that they have exposure to Apple stock, and so that increases their volatility. It does also help their returns, but it subtracts a little bit from their position on the efficient frontier. They also have exposure to Bitcoin through the ProShares Bitcoin Strategy ETF. So that again enhances their risk or increases their risk, and this detracts from their positioning along the efficient frontier. Otherwise, with the recommendations that we've already made, they do move closer to the efficient frontier, and ultimately our goal is to help them move as close to the efficient frontier as we can. We know from having worked with the Brown family that their priorities are to travel, play golf, and enjoy visiting family. So with these priorities in mind, we want to make sure that they can enjoy their retirement. And that's why we're here. We're here to help them be in the best possible position to make the most of their retirement years and be able to enjoy the things that they've always enjoyed doing.